But these shepherds have fallen asleep and have abandoned you. Hello, Thomas the Hermit. That is my musician's name. I'm a man of prayer, a teacher of prayer, and a musician of prayer. Of course, there's been much talk online about the prophecies that have come from Canyon Lake, Texas. These prophecies, even though we question their origin, seem to have the message that is relevant to our times. So there's different ways to discern about whether something is good or if there's something that we need to listen to. In this particular case, I think that it is something that we need to listen to because it brings a lot of clarity to the issues of our times. In this prophecy that I'm sharing with you right now is going to be in two parts. One is a continuing message to God's people, and the other is a message directed at priests and bishops. The title of this is Time to Join My Army. If there are words that I would say that I agree with, this is the most important message that is being spoken. And I don't think that you can say there's anything wrong with that message. So I'm going to continue and I will read the prophecy, the first part, as it is written. It's kind of short, but it has a lot in it. To my children scattered throughout the world, your God speaks to you from the little holy hill, our new Tepeyac. The time has come, my children, to call you to join yourselves to my army. The army that I have formed and forged in silence, in what is hidden, with countless trials, sacrifices, and sufferings. How many small battalions I have formed throughout the world, on each continent, as cisterns of pure water to give life to my hungry and abandoned children, hungry for the truth, hungry for me, and abandoned by those who have become a stumbling block to me. My priest sons, to whom I've given the mandate and mission to care for my sheep, to protect them and nourish them with my sacred food. But these shepherds have fallen asleep and have abandoned you, my children, the vast majority of them. I have faithful shepherds, the joy of my heart, who united to my Jesus work ceaselessly to guide my sheep into my fold, and how they are hated and persecuted. They will receive the crown of martyrdom for this witness and work in my honor. My voice is about to thunder in order to awaken my sleeping children, drunk with the world and with Satan's lies. They do not recognize the times. They do not recognize my voice, and they are useless to me. But I will wake them up with the thunder of my voice. My children, you who suffer at seeing the devastation of my church, at seeing the world completely dominated by Satan and his cohorts, raise your eyes and your hearts to me. You have called me and I come. You have been faithful, and now I show you that I am your faithful God, faithful to my word, faithful to my truth, faithful to my love for you, faithful to my love for you. I come, children, to restore what is mine. I come, children, to take possession of what Satan, in his infinite pride, wished to take from me. I come, children, to reconquer your hearts and the hearts of all my children. Raise your eyes, children, and wait for me. Raise your hearts, my little ones, and trust in me. Raise your hearts, and you will see me. Do not be afraid. Your God arises on your behalf. Remain in me, and do not fear. That is the first part of the prophecy titled, Time to Join My Army. But we've already heard some words here about the priests and bishops. But these shepherds have fallen asleep and have abandoned you. You know, there's a term that was on Tim's channel, parish orphans. And indeed, many of the faithful Catholics have kind of felt abandoned by Pope Francis, abandoned by the cardinals, abandoned by the bishops. And we're looking around and we're seeing all of this craziness happening in the world, where evil has become good and good evil. That people can riot and burn down cities and not get punished, but people who are working to do the gospel, like Mark Hook, has the FBI showing up on his lawn pointing automatic rifles at his children. Indeed, we are in very serious and strange times. We've seen a former president attacked relentlessly from a weaponized legal system. All the things that we are seeing. They have tried to stop the farmers from growing food. Why do they not care about farmers growing food? As if there's enough food in the world. Of course, their agenda is population control. They think that people should be eliminated because there's too many of them. There are so many issues, I can't even talk about all the issues, but let's move on more to this prophecy. I call you to join yourselves to my army. Have you given any thought to that? Is the Lord tugging on your sleeve? Is the Lord asking you to be a part of his army? You might get confused. What can I do? I'm just a Sunday Catholic. Sometimes I pray the rosary. And then, I go to Mass sometimes, but how could I possibly be a part of God's army? This is very confusing to people. But what is God's army? This is my opinion. God's army are those who decide to be faithful to the deposit of faith, live their lives as Catholics, and grow ever closer to our Lord Jesus Christ by every means that they can do. On my channel, I do try to teach people the treasures that are hidden within the church. I try to teach them how to use the gifts of the church to grow closer to our Lord Jesus Christ, how to understand the scriptures better, how to pray according to the traditions of our church. So I am trying to provide tools. There are other people trying to provide tools out there. He goes on and he says, I have faithful shepherds. We talked a little bit about these shepherds that are asleep. So many priests who seem to be not really guiding their flocks towards holiness. If your priest isn't guiding you to live a holy life, if he's just holding your hand, if he's just telling you, about environmentalism and how to tolerate everyone, and you're like, I'm struggling, just to keep myself together, and he doesn't seem to feed you, right? Well, anyways, here he talks about the faithful ones. Who are these faithful ones? I have faithful shepherds, the joy of my heart, who united to my Jesus work ceaselessly to guide my sheep into my fold. So we see someone like Bishop Strickland. I moved to Tyler, Texas, so that Bishop Strickland would be my bishop. And that's because I haven't seen spiritual leadership like his since John Paul II. I saw John Paul II in San Antonio when he visited San Antonio back in the 80s, I believe. Both of these men, and both of them were shepherds. They were trying to guide the flock towards the truth of the gospel, towards the truth of the deposit of faith. And of course, he was canceled. And then we all saw what happened to Father Frank Pavone and also Father James Altman. And then Cardinal Burke was thrown out of the Vatican. Wasn't that special? So we have all these things going on. And now we have John Mary, Father John Mary from Canyon Lake. I'm sure his head is on the chopping block. You can bet it. But what are the words of the prophecy here? They will receive the crown of martyrdom for this witness and work in my honor. So those priests who are saying no to what Pope Francis is doing and no to the hierarchy and continue to preach the true gospel message will receive their reward. And also, they become leaders within the resistance. So we can't say any longer that we don't have anyone to follow. We do have leadership to follow. I'm talking about Cardinal Burke. I'm talking about Bishop Strickland. I'm talking about Father Frank Pavone. You know, Bishop Strickland is on YouTube now, and Father Frank Pavone continues his ministry to fight for the unborn. So we do have some leadership, but what is our response becomes the issue. Now, according to this, my voice is about to thunder in order to awaken my sleeping children. We are kind of asleep, aren't we? Some of us sitting around saying Mary's going to fix everything in the end. I don't think that's what Mary was asking of us. That's not what's recorded in Revelations. In Revelations, it says that the children of the woman, I'm talking about the woman in Revelations who was standing on the moon enshrouded by the stars, that one whom we interpret as Mary, she goes off to make war with the serpent and with her children. Her children are warring with her. We're supposed to be warring with her. We need to learn not to be afraid. We need not be afraid of what could happen. It's very, very clear in Revelations. It looks like we are in those times in many ways. But even so, the things that are written in Revelations, even if this is not the end times, still are important. They still tell us about what we are to expect and what we need to do. And it says in there, those that are destined to the sword will receive the sword. Those that are destined for imprisonment will receive imprisonment. Still see that the January 6 patriots are abused almost as bad as if they're in the Russian Gulag. If you don't know what the Russian Gulag is, you may need to go check it out. There's a book called The Gulag Archipelago, and you can find out how the Russians imprison people. They imprison them a minimum of 10 years for even the suspicion that they were even doing anything contrary to what the communist dictators wanted. We have already political prisoners right now, and we don't know what the future will hold. But this is the time to step up, to be counted. If things go bad, they're going to be bad anyways. I repeat that. If things go bad, they're going to be bad anyways. Being on the wrong side just to save your skin isn't going to make it better. Because the judgment, there's going to be a chastisement. We know that. The judgment is coming. And according to Our Lady of Akita, that judgment will be on both the good and the evil. Both are going to be hurt in that. So hiding away and avoiding conflict and not, you have to be wise. You have to be wise. I go to Mass once a week at a very small congregation of people. I don't want them to know that I'm against Pope Francis. I don't want them to cancel me going and receiving the Blessed Sacrament because I need the Eucharist every week. But then I can come online and also with my neighbors and stuff like that. I can voice what I think is going on. I can continue to seek the Lord and grow in holiness. Now, this is only an example. So I'm not saying that it's appropriate to do what I did when they announced in the cathedral in Tyler, Texas, that Pope Francis had removed Bishop Strickland. And I did yell out for everyone to hear in that cathedral, "Screw Pope Francis." I did that. And I had particular reasons for doing that. Okay. But now I'm kind of a little bit underground. Canyon Lake prophecies, whether or not we think that they are of divine origin, they don't have to be 100% of divine origin for them to be a message from God. And if you think that they do, then you really have no understanding. God speaks through human beings. And we used to hear prophecies of varied kinds when we were in, as charismatics, we used to hear prophecies. Okay, so there is a gift of prophecy within the church, and they all don't have to be high-level prophecies like Akita or things like that, or Fatima. They can just be prophecies that guide us at the present time, and they're not as big a deal as we make them out to be. People get so worried about different things, but these prophecies say what needs to be said. Think about it. Think about it. They say what needs to be said. So I say that they deserve a second look. All right? Okay, the prophecy goes on. I haven't heard anyone speak about these issues. My children, you who suffer at seeing the devastation of my church, isn't that you and me? Isn't that you and me? Has anybody said anything like this? At seeing the world completely dominated by Satan and his cohorts, raise your eyes and your hearts to me, children. This is interesting. I'm going to elucidate on this. You've called me and I come. Oh, the Lord has heard our prayer. Yes, we have been praying with all our hearts, haven't we? Even if we haven't been doing it formally, our hearts cry out to God in fear and in pain. Here's what the Lord has to say to us. This all makes good sense. You have been faithful, and now I show you that I am your faithful God. Faithful to my word, faithful to my truth, faithful to my love. Meaning, I'm God, I call the shots. If I say something is going to be, it's going to be. If I tell you to love God with all your heart, mind, and strength, that's what you need to be doing. If I tell you to pick up my cross, that's what you need to be doing. See, you're faithful to God, God's faithful to you. I come, children, to restore what is mine. I come, children, to take possession of what Satan, in his infinite pride, wished to take from me. I come, children, to reconquer your hearts and the hearts of all my children. Raise your eyes, children, and wait for me. Now, these are interesting and powerful words. Raise your hearts, my little one, and trust in me. That's good. Raise your hearts and you will see me. That's the important phrase. That's the one. Raise your hearts and you will see me. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. They shall have their fill. Another translation. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for holiness. They shall have their fill. Raise your hearts and you will see me. This is important. He who draws near to me, I will draw near to him. This is in the scriptures. If we raise our hearts to him, we draw closer to him, he will be with us. I've been seeing this when I lead prayers on Rumble, and also I used to lead them on YouTube, but I don't do that anymore. If you want to join me in prayer every day on Rumble, Thomas the Hermit, one word. You put Thomas the Hermit together in one word, that is the name of my Rumble channel. Go to that Rumble channel, you can pray every day, the morning prayers, the evening prayers, and the rosary in the middle of the day. That's what I do on Rumble. And I do it, and what I'm seeing is that God is trying to draw closer to us. So wringing your hands and being worried and being all beat up is not God's will. He doesn't want that to happen to you. No one in my group feels that because they are so much in God's grace. God is so present to them that they are strengthened and they are not afraid. The next word of the prophecy, do not be afraid. Your God arises on your behalf. Remain in me. There's another word. Remain in me and do not fear. This is Thomas the Hermit. Say a prayer for me. I am praying for you. I will talk to you later.